Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pre-market analysis and trade plan setup for Thursday, August the 28th, 2014. My name is Doug McKay, and I am the moderator and founder. If you're interested in checking out our chat room, it is a Skype chat room. You can give me a contact request at Doug_McKay. I'll be the one from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. Or you can send me an email to d.mckay@stealthtrader.com. We're going to get going in just a minute. What we do here each morning is we go through and looking at the structure of the market from the macro to the micro, and then get into some more in-depth analysis and set up our hypotheses for the day and our trade levels and trade plan targets. Before I do anything, of course, I've got to get the disclaimer out of the way. This information is for the purpose of educating members who want to expand the knowledge of the business of trading. It's not for trading or investment advice. You and only you are responsible for the trades or investment decisions made. Trading futures or any instrument involves risk or loss. Please consider carefully whether futures or options are appropriate to the financial situation. Only risk capital should be used in trading futures or options. Investors could lose more than their initial investment. Nobody here is a certified trading advisor. We are retail traders operating within a self-organized learning environment. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and any trades that you see are for education purposes only. Please do your own due diligence and trade your own trade plan. Okay, so let's start and take a look at, obviously we just had news out, both the GDP and the job claims were better. Had a little bit of a spike, but not much of a move. I think it was anticipated. Of course, other news coming in overnight, Russia. Troops kind of lost their way and wandered into Ukraine. So we should be getting some headline risk today with how the world reacts to that move. Of course, Russia is saying that they've sent troops in as advisors not to take over the country. Anyway, before we start, I always like to look at the macro to the micro, look at the trends within the different time frames. Of course, the monthly is very strong, good slope, good separation, trading near all-time highs, and you can see that the trend is very much intact on the monthly. Going down to the weekly, same thing, had a little bit of weakness, but it did not break below the 20 SMA, popped back up, and it has moved higher. Keep talking about the fact that we've got a technical gap on the weekly and on the daily, and I expect that the weekly is going to get closed when we move down to that those two CHVNs and back into the microcomposite VPOC area at 1967 and a quarter, if not 1971 and a quarter. But overall, the trend is very much intact on the weekly. Could get a little bit of a pullback here to close this technical gap. Going down to the daily, same thing. You can see that we had a inside day on yesterday, and so far we've had some weakness coming in overnight. So we've got a Mr. Sneaky, and a gap close right now would bring us down to the 1984.50 area on the daily. I think it's actually going to end up being around 86 is where the daily will get closed. Nothing, I keep going back to the geometric chart and the fact that there's really nothing yet, and I've gone down to lower time frames to see if I can find an opposing fork, and I'm not really finding anything. The key today is, a move back to down to test the lower line of the longer term upward sloping fork would take us down into that 1973 area, and I really think it's going to be the 71 and a quarter area. Whether we get there today or not is depending on a couple levels. A move back up today would take us up into the 2015-2016 area. Now, yesterday afternoon I was talking about critical mass, so I'm just going to touch on that for a minute. Critical mass is a theory that once you get to a point where the remaining days of a month are, the average true range, our average true range right now is between 18 and 19 points, and our week open, our month open is down at 1926. So there's very little possibility that they can take it down and get us below 1926. Therefore, the theory is at some point in time, the sellers will step aside and the buyers will take control. I don't think that's going to happen until we get back above 2000. But if we get between today and tomorrow, if we get above 2000, I think the sellers will capitulate and we'll get a pop into the long weekend, and we'll probably get Friday afternoon holiday drift if we get into that 2000. Below 2000, it's a weird spot this month to talk about critical mass because of the fact that we are bumping up against the centennial number that's never been hit before. So it's not normally. I think normally at this point in time you'd already see the sellers capitulating, and once we hit critical mass, and the buyers would take control and move us higher. Taking a look at the intraday trends to see where we are coming into the RTH session, you can see that that 4-hour trend is finally rolled over. We've had the strong trend on the 4-hour. We talked about yesterday the fact that it was starting to roll over. There's a bit of an inverted cup here that we can take a look at and measure it out. Excuse me. But I'm not going to do that yet. There is a naked cross above us. It needs to be written down in your journal as reference, and that's up at 1996. I don't think we're done with the highs yet, but I do think that we could see a move down if we breach some critical levels, and one of them being that 1992, which we've already broken. Going down to the 30-minute, you can see that we've started a downward trend. We had a bit of a technical gap earlier on the 30-minute. They popped it back up on the news, and since then they've rejected the 9 EMA and we're holding below it. So there is a downward trend on the 30-minute. Going into the 5-minute, a little bit of a different story. Is I marked this down earlier when I was doing my homework that we had this naked cross here at 1990, and I can cross that off now on my 5-minute. But basically we're seeing some consolidation sideways on the 5-minute. So let's take a look at the big picture. You can see that we've had this parabolic move up, got an exhaustion gap up here. They try to hold value up here at 1998.50 for the last 3 days, and then overnight they could not hold value. We're going to gap down, so we are creating an island top here with this gap down. If we close below this low from yesterday, which we're likely to do at 93.50, we're actually going to create this island top. This could signal a stronger move down over the next week, down towards the 71 and a quarter, 60, 67 and a quarter. You can see that this whole move up from the gap up from the balance that we had down here around 1860, once we gapped up on May 26, we've moved up and we've created this micro composite with the value area high at 78.75 and the value area low down here at 28 and a quarter. A move back inside of value is not the world falling and the sky falling and a bigger move. That bigger move doesn't become more apparent, and where we can start talking about the fact that maybe the interim high has been put in until we breach below the microcomposite low. You might want to start talking about it at 1928 and the break below that, but I'm not convinced that we've seen the last of the highs until we get below that 1894. But let's deal with what we have up here right now, and of course the key right now is the fact that we've broken below this CLVN at 1992.75, and we are likely, if we hold below the 92.75, to rotate down into this 1989 to advertise to the buyers and close this gap down here at 1988. This is where they held value after making, going into price discovery. They consolidated, they accepted value in around 1989, and then they gapped up again. And like now that we're below that gap area, they're likely to come down here and advertise to these, these traders that accepted value. And here we're making a move down there right now. Key level below this is going to be that 1985.50 again. It's kind of, there's kind of a blunt area on the profile. There's a couple smaller CLVNs, but there's one here at that 86 1/4. Remember, we were trading off that 86 1/4 last week, and then you got another one at that 85.50 is the value area low of the 2-day price acceptance. If we get below that, and I'm really thinking we could rotate down to the 85.50 area, but if we break below 85.50, as I've been saying, we're likely going to come down to this 1981.75. This is where they tried to hold value the last time we made the swing high with the fractal high at 1985.75, and they tried to hold value there for 2 days before falling out of value and coming down into this bigger area and more important area, which is this double distribution and where our microcomposite VPOC has been playing ping pong. They came up, they accepted and had a microcomposite VPOC shift up to 67.50, then it shifted up higher, and then it shifted back down lower. So once we get below this level right here, and you could use 1980, but I'm using 1978.75 simply because it's the value area high for the microcomposite. You're likely to get some value area players that are going to try to defend that. So I don't think 80 is going to be necessarily strong support. I think you've got to look for responsive buyers stepping in here. But if we break below that, then I'm looking for the bigger move. And I had the CLVN here at 76.75. I don't think that that's an important level anymore. I think really if we get below the 78.75, you really got to be looking for a move down to the 71 1/4 and 67 1/4, and we're likely to come down here and play ping pong and mature the auction and determine what's fair value for both the buyers and the sellers. Is it 71 1/4? Is it 67 1/4? First target below that 78 is going to be 77.75 or 74 1/4. Let's take a look at the overnight and start moving our numbers over. So overnight so far, we have an overnight low down at 1987, 87.50. And our overnight high is all the way up at 1997.50. Basically a 10-point move overnight. And that overnight high right in around that VPOC. Inventory overnight, our close yesterday was 1997 1/4, so inventory overnight is net short. And we could even see if we trade, we've got a few minutes left, there's another half hour to go, we could see a Globex VPOC shift down into this 89 area. But right now it's still up at 94.50, which is one tick below the IB low from yesterday. So I'm going to put it there, but we'll just pay attention. And if anybody sees the shift happen while I'm talking and looking at other charts, just let me know. There's a couple LVNs that we want to look at from overnight. There's obviously this one right here at 91 1/4. I'm going to put that right here. And there's one up here at 93 1/4, and I think this is the more important one because this is going to be a retest of yesterday's low. So let's get rid of this. We really don't need the overnight, and take a look at where we are within the bigger picture. There's really nothing okay, below us right now until we get down to 1986.50. So you've got this, and I'm going to use 85.50, the smaller one, simply because of the fact that we've got that naked VPOC down here at 86. So I'd be looking for a response. If they're going to push it down, they're not going to, they're not going to hold the 86 and a quarter. They're going to go for this 86, and I would be looking for responsive buyers to step in there. So I'm going to use the 85.50 as an area that I want to do business. And basically, we've got a 96% probability of taking out the overnight high or overnight low. If we're below that 93.50, there really is a very strong case that 96% probability is going to shift all onto the low here. So I'm going to use the LVN from overnight at 91 as a trade area, and I'd be looking, to see, first of all, we're going to open up outside of value and outside of range. So whenever that happens, we always have to look at the possibility that you're going to see initiative sellers stepping in and taking us lower. And I really be looking for the possibility of a open drive on the open. We're going to open up, back into this balance. They're likely to come down and try to take out the overnight low and close the gap below. But if we get above 91 and a quarter, then I'd be looking for them to try to push it up to 93.50 and see if they can get back inside the value. So I will be using 91 and a quarter. Down here, you're in balance around this 89, so there's no real safe trade here. I'm hoping what happens is they go up and they reject the 91 and a quarter, and then you can get the short into 88, 87.50. Unless I see strong initiative selling on the open and push us down into that 88. And we'd still have a half hour to go, so we could actually come down and make a new low, overnight low, even before the open here. My wish list is we open near this 91 and a quarter, and we either break above it to go up to 93, and we can get long into that, or we reject it and we get short into the 88, 87.50 with a continuation down to 86.50. Below us, we got, and I'm going to bring this up. I want to just bring this up higher, and why I think that any move to stay below the 92.75. Look at all the repair work that we've got to do to the auction. All these naked VPOCs and naked closes. So, all the way down right now to 67 and all the way down into 53, because remember that 52.75 too, on the composite was where we initially found value. Our microcomposite VPOC, okay, used to be down here before it shifted up to 67 and a quarter. It was down here at the 52.75. So, if we can't hold 92.75 and until we get above 92.75, and the only reason I'm not putting 92.75 on my chart is because 92.75 is just too close to the 93.50 low. So really, there's going to be this slush zone between 92.75 and 93.50. For the short, if we reject the range low, I think you got to wait until we're below that 92.75 and get in and get funded before the 91 and a quarter. But if you're going to take the long, you got to wait until we're above 93.50 and get inside a range and for move back up to test the value area low. So my first target above the 92.75, 93.50 area is going to be the range. The value area low at 95.75. I'm going to put it in as a target. Those that are in here know that targets are, trade areas are targets, but they're also areas where I would look to add to a trade or enter a trade. Inside of value, real clear, you're going to get a move up into take out the naked close, the overnight high, and the naked VPOC with 98 50 being balance of the last 3 days. So I'd be looking for a move up, actually complete the value area play up to the value area high at 98.25 and come back into balance right here at 98.50. So it can be a whole bunch of trade areas, but remember their targets as well. Once we're back up in this area, I think then you're gonna, if we break outside of value, I think the buyers are gonna take control and they're gonna push for that 2,000 again. And so again, that's gonna be a target and a trade area. And then above 2,000, you want to be long. Okay, because I think at that point in time, you will see critical mass kicking in, and you'll get a bigger rotation, and sellers will step aside and allow them to go up. And the targets above still remain the same: 2,002.75, the all-time high, 2,005.50. And then the big number above us still is, I still believe that we're going to see this 2010 for the rule of 10. We breached 2000. In fact, the last time, if you look, when we breached the 1900s, okay, I think the first push in was into the 1902, 1903 area. Then we rotated back into the 1887 area, and then we went up and hit the 1905 and 010 targets. So I'm looking at a possibility of a similar play. To the low side, of course, we want, we're looking to take our target below range and below the LVN at 91.25, and the first one is going to be that naked close at 88, but most likely go through and take out the overnight high. And I'd be looking for continuation down to the lower side of that balance and down to this 85.50. Below 85.50, everything for me is all about the 81.75. With possible continuation down to 1980.50, the naked VPOC, and the CLVN, okay, at 80. But again, like I said, I'm going to be using the 78.75 as my trade area. And then anything below 78.75, you've got your first target at 74. I think 74.50 it was. 74.50, and then the big one down here at 71.25 and 67.25. Okay, and then the other side of that balance down there, and where I'd look for them to hold is going to be at that 62.25. And that's where I think we'll see, a lot of trading in this area between 67 and 71. When did I put it at 70.25? 71.25. Sorry. And I think we'll see a lot of chop, and I think we're going to get some rotation down there as they mature the option. So that's what I'm looking at on the ES. Let me just take a quick look. I want to see how it sets up on the ES Renko with Keltner to see how these levels set up. So right now you can see that we've got downward channel on the Keltner. The center line of the Keltner is right at 90.75, so that 91.25 LVN, that's perfect right there. A move down to the range low, lower Keltner line takes us down to that 85.50 area, 84.75, and then a move above the center line takes us up to test the upper Keltner line, will take us down up to that 1997 area where we've got our naked VPOC and naked close from yesterday. So you can see how those fit perfectly in line. All right, jumping over to the Russell. So on the big picture on the Russell, okay, it's all about the 66.40. And I've already put my hypothesis in the trade room. If we get above the 66.40, then I think we rotate back into the balance of the upper distribution up here and the microcomposite VPOC at 1168.30. And then just above that, we've got yesterday's range low. Yesterday's range low was 68.80. And possibility of rotation back into the 2-day balance where they're trying to hold value up at that 11. I keep saying 19. It's 1168.30, 1166.30 CLVN is the key line, and then above it, look for that rotation back up, and we'll look at the intraday in a minute. Below there, we've got a pretty blunt area down here. And the first target below I'd be looking at is the Globex low down at 1163.10, and possibly come down to the last week. Our value area high was 1161.30. So we got a couple things here. We've also got a naked close. So let's just go to the short time frame and look at the overnight and start moving things over. And I've already started putting in some of this. Our overnight low is 63.10. There's a naked VPOC and a naked close just below it, and then the key level is the is that CLVN. There's an LVN here at 67.25, so 67.20. So if we get above that 66, and I'm going to use 66.30 as the key line in the sand for the open, if we get above that 1166.30. Look to get long into the move back towards the microcomposite VPOC at 68.30, but you have to be cognizant that we have an LVN and the value area high from overnight, just right there at that 67.20. So look for possibility of some responsive selling stepping in there. If the initiative sellers step in, look for them to go in, take the overnight low out, and take out the naked VPOC and naked close. And then the level I'd be watching is this 61.50, and I'd be looking for them to come in and defend there. So I'll be looking at using 61.50 as an area for responsive. So they come down, they push it down, take out the overnight low, taking out the gap, take out the naked VPOC, buyers start stepping in, they push it down to 61.25, then we rotate back up and test that 66.25 from below. If they break below the 61.25, everything's about the 59 again, 59.10 CHVN. Okay, and then below that, the other side of the lower side of that balance, around 59, is the 56.10. And then below that, everything's going to be about that 53 again, because that's last week's microcomposite VPOC. It's between 54.50 and 53.80. It's where they tried to hold value before. It's where they accepted value last week before our pop. So this is actually going to be a pretty nice short below this 56 into this 53 area. And I'm going to use 53.80. And then the lower side of that balance is going to be last week's value area low at 1151.20. And if we break below value from last week, you've got the big number, which is your, what did I do here? I just messed up my chart. I'm just going to take this profile off. Okay, the really big number, okay, and just bring it up on the big picture so you can see it. And we've been talking about this for months. I think I first pointed this out back in July 14th, is this value area low from the upper distribution level, okay, and the value area high from the distribution below it. And they're right in that 1150 and 1159.50 area. So I'd be looking for a key line in the sand at 1150. 1150.30. You know what? I'm just going to move this 1151.20 because I don't think that you know, if they get down here, they're not going to respect that 51.20 from last week. I think they're going to look at that 50.30 because that's a much bigger level. So just going to put that there and get rid of this one right here. And then below 50, we've got to be looking for a bigger rotation down and back into the balance in the lower distribution with extended targets down here at 1141 and 1139.20. But the first target below will be at CHVN at 1147.60. How am I doing for time, Nick? With the other side of balance down at 1145.50 CLVN. Okay. And then, of course, below that, your big target is the 1141 and the 1139.20 with the naked naked Deepak down at 1137. I don't think we're going to get down here today, but we always make sure that our if that then plan incorporates extended targets for when we get into trending days. Let's take a quick look at gold, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, we're above that that 91 level I was talking about yesterday. And you can see we've already gone up there overnight. I said yesterday if we got above that CLVN at 91, that we get sucked up into balance here at the major magnet. This is the composite Deepak going all the way back to 2008, October 24th, 2008 at 1296.10. If we hold above this 1291, I'd be looking for a move back to 1296 again and test it again. But if we break below it, and then look for them to come back down to this 1288, 1287. Gold's really got some clear defined targets right now. If we stay above and we come back up and rotate into this 96.10 and we see some more weakness coming in the indices, we could actually see them come up and test the other side of balance and test that 1300 again in the 1302 CLVN. Remember that our composite has been playing ping pong between the 1318 and 1296. It shifted up and then it shifted back down. So if we get above the 1302, I think you want to get long. It's going to be a strong long into closing out the naked gap at 1305 with your target just above at 1309, and above 1309 a continuation up to that 1318. Really nice levels. Below the 91, you've got 86 with the other side of balance being that 81.20, and anything below 81.20, I think you got a really nice short back into where they just accepted value at the 1278, 1275 area, which is where the former value was accepted before moving up higher up into the 1300s. So that's what I'm looking at this morning. As always, trade what you see, not what you think, and trade well, trade safe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.